This week on One Day Leader, our contestants explore what we can do as a society to curb the escalation of crime in this country. Sanibonani nonke emakhaya, namkelwa yona ke intombi yakwaMtimande Shongwe khona la ku One Day Leader on SABC 1. Now we are still very much into our mission of Project SA, and over the past few weeks we've seen some very interesting insights come out from our contestant debates, as well as some interesting solutions to some of our country's most burning issues. Tonight's topic is one that we can all relate to. It is said that 58 humans are murdered on a daily, over 100 rapes recorded, and about 444 victims are assaulted. All this in a day in South Africa. I ask myself, who exactly is meant to deal with this issue of crime? Is it up to the South African Police Services? Is it the courts and the justice system? Perhaps it is the South African Defence Force. Or maybe it is us as a society. But how do we do it? I trust that tonight our contestants have some answers as we delve deep into this issue. How can we better respond to this issue of crime? Sizozwa ngabo-ke abaholi bethu are in place and ready to introduce themselves. Leader 1, your vision statement, please.
Who taught us to sensationalize crime, or even simply to normalize harming and violating another person? Furthermore, who taught us to cultivate a culture of being a bystander, or even furthermore, to divorce the guilt of the crime itself from the complicity of being silent, or even not being proactive about the problems and circumstances that lead people to crime? Bakithi ubugebengu akusiyona inkinga yezigebengu nabantu abanaga umthetho. Ubugebengu inkinga efuna ukuthi nathi sidlale eyethu indima. Ngalokho, nithi people-inspired solutions to our problems. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you very much, Leader 1. Leader 2, good evening. Your vision statement, please.
Growing up in the rural areas in Bizana, I had a great privilege of living in a safe and free society, because I knew that if I did something wrong in the absence of my mother and my father, there was Ubabu Ushabangu next door who was going to deal with me. There was Mama Dlamini on the left who was going to deal with me. That built a better society. A community that works hand in hand along with the system can better prohibit and alleviate the crimes that we have in society. South Africa, join me as we work together in building a South Africa that is better for all of us to live in. Why don't we want to build a society that's going to be comfortable and suitable for the next generation that's going to exist in it? It is high time that we stand up and rise together as a nation in building a nation with an African identity. Mhlungu Africa.
Thank you very much, Leader 2. Good evening, Leader 3. Your vision statement, please.
Isizwe sinyembelekile ikati ileleziko kumakhaya ngamakhaya ngenxa yentswelo ngqesho. The end of apartheid should have been the beginning of a new era where we would live radically different lives from those who rose in 1976. But our realities, like crime, speak different. But I still say that Africa is not poor. Africa is being robbed by our silence, apathy, and neutrality. For socio-economic transformation and emancipation, South Africa needs a catalyst for change, a surgeon for humanity, and an advocate for Africanism. If not you and I, then who? And if not now, then when?
Thank you very much, Leader 3. Good evening, Leader 4. Your vision statement, please.
The Soweto uprising of 1976 showed us young people who were determined to not allow their circumstances to dampen their spirits. From the streets of Soweto, Kophiri, I'm here to remind young people from socio-economic peripheries that we can rise above our circumstances. We are more than just crime and unemployment. We can stand on national podiums and be leaders. Zizojiki Zinto.
Thank you very much, Leader 4. Hello to you, Leader 5. Your vision statement, please.
The creation of a peaceful and prosperous society that includes all people of all races is the development of citizens with a sociological understanding for their societies so that they can meaningfully contribute to them, restoring prosperity and promoting the cause of peace for all. South Africa, I am the one you've been waiting for.
Thank you very much, Leader 5, and good evening to you, Leader 6. Your vision statement, please.
My voice, my mind, my life. 3 things I will use to fight for those whose suffering is silenced. Youth hindered by a lackluster education system. Women under siege by the patriarchy from the gender pay gap to gender-based violence. Queer bodies systemically excluded from all sectors of society. The 99% who've been repeatedly failed by the state, and Black Africans who continue to live under the dictatorship that is the legacy of apartheid. South Africa, I give you my voice, my mind, my life.
Thank you very much, Leader 6. Well, South Africa, those are our 6 leaders who are ready to do the work behind hashtag Project South Africa. Now, remember, you at home can join in our conversation tonight and do hold all our leaders accountable on our social media pages. You can get involved on Twitter and, of course, Instagram, where you can also see some behind-the-scenes pictures and all the exciting things to come out of One Day Leader. Simply search for @OneDayLeader. Our Facebook page is One Day Leader Season 8. Now, last week, Mzansi, you had an opportunity to vote for your favorite leader. Let's take a look at who you chose to lead the pack.
With a week away from elimination, the viewer votes for this week sees Bal leading with 4,474 votes and Vusi trailing behind with 295 votes. This means Bal gets 1 point. Congratulations.
Don't forget to keep voting, as your vote could determine who is crowned this season's One Day Leader. We're only 1 week away from elimination, so make sure to continuously vote for your favorite. Now let's take a quick look at how you can vote for these leaders. To vote for Lindo, SMS Leader 1. To vote for Tobani, SMS Leader 2. To vote for Zizipo, SMS Leader 3. To vote for Zanele, SMS Leader 4. To vote for Vusi, SMS Leader 5. And to vote for Bal, SMS Leader 6 to 34708. SMS's cost R1.50. Mzansi, as we know, there are various law enforcement agencies that are tasked with dealing with the issue of crime. Kodwa namhlanje, we're dealing with this issue from a societal point of view, and we're joined by Bongani Frank Masilela, who is a director at Tsimong. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. When it comes to society and the issue of crime, we see a lot of finger pointing. The people blame the police blame the state, there's not enough resources. What can we as a society do in order to meet what the government is doing so that we can finally solve this issue?
So I think as a society we need to recognize that oftentimes crime is caused by one of 3 things, and all of them have to do with scarcity. It's a scarcity of economic resources, opportunities, or social belonging. And as much as this is the job of the government to sort out, I think we shouldn't take for granted the fact that anyone in our community could be a victim of that scarcity, and as a result, if we don't do something to give them at least a sense of social belonging or economic opportunities where we're able to help them out, we'll end up losing them to a life of crime, and criminals end up not being this abstract monster that no one knows, but it ends up being your cousin, your neighbor, and someone that you grew up with. So I really think that we need to recognize those 3 things and try play our part in placing young people where we can.
It wouldn't be an episode of One Day Leader without our amazing resident judges. Please join me in welcoming Ndumiso Hadebe, an economist and entrepreneur, as well as Gugulethu Mhlungu, who is an up-and-coming media mogul, as well as award-winning writer and deputy editor. It's great to have you back, guys. You are engaged and are making your contributions on our Facebook page, our Twitter page, as well as our Instagram page, if you like. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to continue unpacking this issue of crime here in South Africa. Welcome back, and thank you very much for staying with us here on SABC1. You're tuned into One Day Leader. Igama Pearl Shongwe. Every year, Stats SA shares some crime stats, and they just seem to be on the rise. If the crime stats are going up, who exactly commits these crimes? Well, our contestants were tasked with going on the ground to get a better understanding of this entire crime issue from different angles. Let's take a look.
So our task today was to investigate how law officials such as the police, the GNPD, and other entities engage with the communities and how they can find solutions to try and prevent the issue of crime in South Africa.
Bengikhetha ukuthi ngoba umholi we-task yanamuhla okwethu bokuthi sihambe siqale siye e-JNPD.
No, welcome to the IIOC of JNPD. The IIOC stands for Integrated Information Operations Center. because here the CCTV camera operators sit monitoring cameras 24 hours on a daily basis. The cameras are placed in the CBD of Johannesburg to monitor the city of Johannesburg, which is a very highly populated area and which is used daily by a lot of people commuting to the CBD to work and also for business. The operators are in direct contact with the officers on patrol, and when there's an incident, they call the officers to respond to the location that they see on the cameras. In May 2019, a specialized unit was established. That unit is the undercover unit linked to the CCTV. So now I'm going to take you into the review council and show you what we have there.
We got to have a look at how they use cameras that they have installed to take note of specific instances where law enforcement isn't immediately present.
Here we see suspects attacking a man, throwing him to the ground because they want to steal him, they want to steal his money or whatever he has valuable on him. So as this incident unfolds, there's already officers on their way there.
I think something that I was particularly interested in was how technology is being used in this very fourth industrial revolution type sense in the police service.
Here we see, these are the screens which the operators monitor 24 hours, 7 days a week. We can see that one operator can actually manage 16 cameras. And then when there's a particular camera or a particular area that he wants to view, then you would move this particular viewing to a bigger screen to be able to see more clearly what the problem is.
Like it's Star Force Bonnie movie in where they're trying to catch people, what they call in America and England, eagle's eye. We saw that eagle's eye being applied in South Africa, which was very good. It instilled confidence from me.
Our second stop was to go to Ejozi, where we were going to see Impahle Zenziwe ezingasi original. So there's a responsibility for law enforcement agencies to make sure ukuthi noma yini ezayo in the country dayisayo eyitolo njalo njalo izinto ezisemthethweni. So noma yini engekho emthethweni ke kufanele ikhishwe ilahlwe.
We're here to investigate about the confiscation of counterfeit goods. So we would like to hear from you as the spokesperson of the SAPS what exactly happens in this kind of scene.
Into ngakutshela yona ukuthi siku operation ukayi umlawo lesi conductayo eviki neviki siya kwindawo nendawo la sithole khona information yokuthi kunezinto zingaphephile or izinto ezenzakalayo ezingafunakala. So what we do, we go to those areas, do a raiding and make sure that we arrest those who are involved in the criminal activities.
They rely on word of mouth from people who will tell them about specific stores where those goods are sold.
Community are assisting us a lot. They are the ones who are giving the information, and we are putting our intelligence on the ground to go and get more information. We have confiscated a lot of counterfeit goods.
I'd like to know what happens to these counterfeit goods once they've been separated from the original, if there are any.
These are the exhibits of criminal activities. And when we confiscate such, we give a short space of time where we are going to destroy them.
Instead of destroying them, they're children in orphanages. I understand these are counterfeit goods, but can't we see a silver lining out of it and maybe take them to these poor kids? But apparently that's not what they do.
Remember, the criminals are residing within the society. They are not residing in the police station. So the people out there, they are the ones who can assist the police to identify those who are committing crime so that they can be taken out from the society. As we are done in here, we are continuing with the operation around Gauteng, but now let's go to Cosmo City where the operation is continuing.
Sesahamba sayosebenzisana namanye amaphoyisa eCosmo City, amaphoyisa akhona bokuthi bamisa abantu emgwaqweni to search cars for drugs, for illegal goods.
We came to learn about law enforcement, specifically from the perspective of the people who are responsible for protecting South African communities.
No, today we are here at the roadblock, and as you are aware that the community is concerned about crime, and we are here to change that narrative. Remember, Vision 2030 of South Africa says by 2030 we want our ladies and our young people to walk freely without any fear of crime. So they must be safe and feel safe. And this is part of building to that, because part of the crime, or most of the crime, are used by firearms, so the roadblocks to disarm those that might be carrying firearms. Anything illegal today is not allowed, and that's why we're here today.
Do you ever have situations where the community members are the ones protecting people who are guilty and who are doing things that are against crime, and you're aware of that but have no way of navigating around the situation?
I think another way for answering your question is, and I normally raise with the community meetings, if the community can stop buying stolen property, what will happen to crime? They normally tell me crime will fall like 50% or more. So they do know, and in fact, there are those that are not working. They say, abantwana bayaphanda, yabo. Some of our communities will protect their own, and that we need to overcome.
Actually, amapolice akazo enemies. Whenever they come with communities, it's only because baza at the interest of ukuncedisana nathi. So nathi kufuneka sincedisane nabo. If communities zethu besinga genuine as abahlali, as abantu, xa kukhona ingxaki, the same in white neighborhoods they do. When bebona ingxaki, they phone 10-111 fika khona ingxaki. Yeah, uyabetha umuntu apha next door. Kwezethu communities azenziwe zani. That would help amapolisa to do their jobs efficiently.
Those are some great efforts by law enforcement, but somehow it does not seem to be enough for us to entirely deal with this issue. Ndumiso, I'm going to quickly come to you. South Africans experience and are affected by different types of crime. We see blue collar, we see large scale corruption. What impact does crime have on our economy?
It has a significant impact on the economy, and I think crime itself, or even in building the economy, it's really about what we do in terms of social planning of the kind of society that we want to build and the economy that we want to build. And it really starts with acknowledging that it's not just about what's wrong and what's right, but it really is dependent on the administration of justice, the administration of economic justice, the administration of social justice.
Googs, we look at our constitution. I mean, things like basic services are things that have still not reached people in deep rural communities. Services like water, electricity, basic shelter. Is it really realistic of us to then look to the government to fill the gap that exists?
The whole existence of the government and its three spheres is that it acts on behalf of the state, right? And the state exists purely for the people who live within that state. And that's to say not just residents, but people all who live in it, to quote the Bill of Rights, right? And so when people do look to the state, certainly the poor and marginalized, that is correct. That is precisely why the state exists, because we are well aware of what our potential is, but also the responsibility on the actors of the state to fulfill what people know is due to them.
All right, thank you very much, Judges. Mzansi, hashtag Project SA, hashtag One Day Leader 8. We're dying to hear your thoughts, opinions, and comments, so do engage with us on our social media platforms. When we come back, we start our first debate. Welcome back to One Day Leader Season 8. My name is Pearl Shongwe. Thank you very much for being with us still here on SABC 1. It is a huge task on the contestants' hands tonight, as once again they really have to dig deep and find some really great, creative, innovative solutions that can be implemented tomorrow on this issue of crime. It's time for us to get into our first debate, and that is going to be between Leader 3 and Leader 5. I'll start with the furthest from me. So Leader 5, your time starts now.
Crime in South Africa is out of control and are facing a full-scale war. The annual victims of crime survey by Stats SA shows that the most common crime experienced by South Africans are housebreaking and home robbery. However, we cannot look at crime in isolation because South Africa's economic structure with levels of poverty and unemployment have created conditions for the proliferation of crime. Therefore, the prevention and response to crime cannot be through the narrow lens of the protection of an individual, collective or place from physical threat, and does not incorporate the social developmental aspect of societies. Having said that, I propose this following: replacing the Community Policing Forum of the SAPS with the Community Safety Forums of the South African Local Government Association, which, unlike the CPF, do not only work with the SAPS, but the entire justice, crime prevention and security clusters and social development clusters of government to achieve the underlying developmental perspective of communities in partnership with religious and faith-based organizations. Secondly, dismantling the value chain of stolen goods by utilizing street committees and ward committees aided by the South African Police Service district heads to regulate the second-hand market of South Africa. Which
time is up. Thank you very much. Your leaders can engage on the topic.
Okay. The reason why the Community Safety Forums of the South African Local Government Association are important is because they are based on developing the necessary cross-departmental synergy and alignment to fast-track and improve service delivery, supporting a developmental approach to community safety and crime prevention. Yes.
I think what you're not speaking to is what this entire issue around crime is rooted in, and I believe that's inequality. So, for example, look at the issue.
You didn't listen to me, but I said economic structure.
Can I finish? So, look at the fact that 5.7 million jobs will be automated in the next 10 years, and currently our workforce is not equipped for that, which will lead to unemployment.
So
how will you stop people who cannot enter that era from committing crime because they have no jobs? How does your policy address such issues?
The community safety forums are aligned to municipalities, which will enhance cooperation, integrated planning, and coordinate the implementation of safety programs and projects at the local sphere. Why this is important?
You're not speaking to tackling the issue.
Why this is important, as Ndumiso usually says, people-centered solutions to our problem. Why this is important is because in the community safety forums, citizens are not just a mere extension of law enforcement officers, but are integral to the planning of interventions that will be used. Secondly, in 2012, the Minister of Police launched the Second-Hand Goods Act. We should utilize this act to disrupt and dismantle the stolen goods market by making it impossible for thieves to sell their markets.
You speak about acts, policies and programs, and we've had many of those before.
Unfortunately, Leader 3, you won't get an opportunity. Time is up, Leader 5. You can wrap it up, please.
At the municipal level, the SAP has district heads, and through street committees and ward committees in our communities, we should regulate the second-hand market, which are on our communities, so that we can help to combat the trade of stolen goods. Lastly, our present systems are completely punitive. People go inside and they come back 10 times worse. Therefore, there must be community involvement based on the assessment of existing programs in the context of understanding social consent outside the prison through correctional services. Why this is important is because offender rehabilitation and reintegration is a vital component of...
Time is up. The tables are turned. Leader 3, it's your turn.
The government needs to have structured projects in faith-based organizations where religious leaders can develop sincere dialogue with juveniles, substance abusers, and former inmates reintegrating into their communities. We need every institution and every community to have child skill training, which aims to teach children social, emotional, and cognitive competence by addressing appropriate effective problem, anger management, and emotional language. We also need to look at investing into behavioral parent training, which teaches parents to be consistent in reinforcing helpful behavior, punishing or ignoring hostile and uncooperative behavior. Additionally, in 2018, the World Bank deemed South Africa the world's most unequal society. Now, unfortunately, this means that the black child in Katlaho and Kailicha Ongangilizo was automatically born at the risk of crime and poverty, which creates vicious cycles that are hard to break. South Africa's geographic inequality index is one of many dimensions that need to be looked at in addressing this issue. Therefore, we need to invest in the township economy and give them the necessary skills and infrastructure. Now, what I'm proposing to you is a public justice approach that acknowledges the government that it can partner with organizations, churches, and families and individuals and other institutions to accomplish its goals. Yes.
The problem is that the question looks at how the society as a whole, and you're placing huge burden on the government and corporations. What about the people on the ground?
I clearly said that there needs to be an integration, that the government can partner with organizations, churches, and families and individuals. And what the government needs to do is equip these institutions so these training programs that I've spoken of can be implemented in schools. They can be implemented in churches. The government also needs to take law enforcement into our houses, because that's where majority of conversations happen. Yes?
My concern is that when you're answering your questions, you are reacting to crime, but your solutions do not seek to interrogate the conditions that create a fertile ground for crime.
For effectiveness, any approach to social cohesion must respect differences and support inclusive and sustained dialogue through multi-stakeholder partnerships. I've given you multiple examples.
What is the role of the society in that? The people on the ground who do crime and those who experience crime. What is their role as a society?
I have given you those programs. So
you didn't.
These programs are going to be initiated by the government with the help of the people. We cannot do this as different parties. I'm moving on. Furthermore, poverty and racism and violence of apartheid have resulted in psychological disorders in many children today. Therefore, social reconstruction and innovative counseling should be available for those who experience apartheid and the generations that follow. We need to create spiritually supportive and rehabilitative environments.
Thank you, leaders. Time is up. Leader 3, you can wrap it up in 30 seconds.
In the words of Ngila Michael Muandane, a nation is like a building. The building blocks of a building are the bricks. Those of the nation are the organizations in it. Strong organizations make for a strong nation. Strong self-actualized individuals make for strong organizations. Therefore, strong individuals make for a strong nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, leaders, and well done on that first debate. I'll come to you, our guest, Judge Bongani. Quick impressions on that debate, and if you could please give us the verdict.
All right. So thank you to both of you for what was a wonderful debate. I think I'll start with Leader 5. You came off as a bit too dismissive as opposed to be willing to engage what Leader 3 was saying throughout your debate, especially when they were asking you points of information. I felt, however, that your research was incredibly good. You clearly showed a strong understanding of some of the socio-economic issues that lead people to crime and the failure of institutions and so on. Leader 3, I felt that your the basis of research that you gave us at the beginning of your speech wasn't quite as strong as with Leader 5. However, your solution certainly was. I think you fleshed out the multi-stakeholder solution a lot more clearly than Leader 1 did by looking at the sort of institutions that touch people's everyday lives, whether they're religious institutions, whether they're schools, and so on.
Thank you very much. And the verdict, who took that debate?
Ultimately, I gave the debate to Leader 3.
All right. Congratulations, Leader 3, for winning that first debate. Do stay tuned, Mzansi, because Masbuye Dollar will get into our next round of debates.
As the NYDA, we're very excited with the change that comes with the new government. The presidency in particular is very much focused on young people, and the NYDA plays a central role in implementing the vision of government as it relates to its youth. We're going to introduce new and innovative funds, and we're going to partner with other entities like the Department of Small Business to bring comprehensive packages of support to young people who want to be and are passionate entrepreneurs. We'll be upgrading many of our service centers, and we'll be working with entities like the Department of Employment and Labor and our social partners, Harambee and the Youth Employment Service.
Thank you very much for staying with us, Konalagu One Day Leader. It's time for us to get into our next round of debates. And we'd also like to thank the NYDA, our partner and sponsor, for that very important message. Our discussion today is all about the issue of crime in South Africa. Leader 1 and Leader 6. But Leader 6, of course, I'll give you the first opportunity to present your thoughts.
We know that we live in a country with one of the highest crime rates in the world, but we continue to address crime ineffectively. Firstly, at a community level, we must work with law enforcement and strengthen community policing forums to combat crime and address our lack of trust for the SAPS. Secondly, we need to partner with local schools to strengthen communities and implement anti-violence campaigns and mentorship programs. Thirdly, we need to take ownership of public facilities and view them as our property. Regular cleaning and maintenance are essential and aid in crime prevention as per the broken window theory. Secondly, then, the state must implement a welfare policy and support SMMEs which guarantees financial security and substantive equality. International studies prove that we have to address socioeconomic issues in addressing crime, as inequality is a driving force of crime. Secondly, then, we need to reform the prison system in accordance with international law, emphasizing rehabilitation and reintegration where possible and addressing sentencing issues in our courts. Thirdly and finally, then, it's improving the SAPS as a whole by rolling out public surveillance cameras.
Thank you very much, Leader 6. Time is up, leaders. You can engage.
2 seconds. Specialized training, emphasizing accountability and ensuring equal standards of policing in all areas.
So you discuss a lot of things, but what I'm missing is how those things happen through your model. So for example, with strengthening community forums, that's just what you said. How do you actually ensure that that happens?
It's finding community leaders on the ground who can recognize that there are tangible problems occurring, who have a passion and a desire to want to address them for the benefit of that particular community. And I think it's disingenuous to claim that those people don't
how
exist.
we establish community forums currently. So how does what you're doing differ from what already happens?
Finding young people within those communities who recognize that these systems aren't doing enough and who are passionate about challenging those systems.
That's still the same thing. Community forums don't exclusively consist of like an older generation.
Sure, but now we're talking about people who are like our age perhaps getting actively involved into these kinds of forums and like grappling things out.
Sure. So you discuss SMEs and empowering them. The problem with that is that it almost assumes that it's people who form SMEs who have an issue that leads them to like poverty, for example. But inequality, especially when it comes to wealth, far surpasses people who own SMEs. So even if SMEs bring some form of income, how does it trickle down to people who don't have them?
So it's this idea of economic empowerment and individuals being able to build something for themselves and to create a standard of life that isn't one of scarcity, right? We had just had the discussion earlier about scarcity in 3 different respects. I think this directly...
Thank you very much, leaders. Time is up. Leader 6, you can wrap it up.
I wholeheartedly acknowledge that there are bad people in society who deserve to be imprisoned for their remaining years. Luyanda Botha, Janusz Walusz, Dina Rodriguez. But it is equally true that through state neglect, as a society, we are dooming young people to lives of bitterness, misery, drug abuse, crime, and violence. Let us be the change that empowers our country and permanently addresses the issue to bring about a safe and peaceful society for all.
Thank you very much, Leader 6. You're right on time. The tables are turned. Leader 1, it's your turn.
I'm going to focus on 3 axes. So firstly, the criminal justice system and its officials. We must create standard minimum sentences, especially for heinous crimes. So for example, the Sexual Offences Act creates minimum sentences. For example, a 3rd-time offender gets 30 years. What this does is that firstly, it helps us deal with the problem of criminals receiving low sentences because they have great lawyers. Secondly, it deals with the problem of people receiving minor sentences that make them a threat when they go back into society. The man who murdered Tasni van Wyk got parole in spite having a long list of convictions. We deal with this. The second actor is the community. We say that communities need to unteach and unlearn the sensationalization of crime. We can do this by giving people an alternative to crime. For one, it means that we can make extracurricular activities compulsory and start them in schools or places where they do not exist. Secondly, we create mentorship programs by bringing school alumni or the star of the local area, for example, Questa in the Katoras area. Lastly, we also encourage and support legal side hustles such as tutors, such as musicians, such as people who sell art.
Time's up. You can engage.
Can I proceed?
Sure, go for it.
So the last thing that we also do is that for previous offenders, it means that we help them get employment, specifically through community-based integration. The reason why this is valuable is that when we help them get employment, it means that they don't repeat crimes in order to try to sustain themselves when they're out. This is beneficial for society because we want to prevent repeat crime, the repetition of crime. Yes, Val?
Okay, the Mandatory Minimums Act and SORMA have been going through extensive processes of review and changing, right? As a law student, you'll understand this. How particularly...
the first part.
Sure. So the Mandatory Minimums Act and SORMA have both been reformed in very recent cases, right? This is something that you're aware of as a law student. Additionally, you speak about things like mentorship, community campaigns. This is all things that I mentioned in my case as well.
The only
Prove how yours
difference is I analyzed how those things unfold under my program. But secondly, those acts, going under a lot of deconstruction is good. We're supposed to interrogate our laws.
That is what I agreed to as well.
The Sexual Offences Act didn't have minimum sentences. It therefore does now.
Exactly, but that's still not addressing the issue. That's still not addressing the issue. We're still dealing with people who are getting off scot-free for committing heinous crimes.
If acts are being deconstructed to include minimum sentences, that's exactly good.
Lindo, you're not understanding what I'm saying. You're not understanding what I'm saying. It's fine, continue.
No, but please clarify for the sake of engagement.
So what I specifically talk about reforming the criminal justice system in lots of separate different ways, right? It refers not only to the courts, but it refers to
your 90 seconds are up, leaders. Leader 1, you can wrap up your engagement in 30 seconds.
Cool. So the last thing that we need to address specifically is the state. We say that the state must not put people who commit non-violent crimes such as theft in prison for a long time. The reason this is important is that when you're in prison, engaging in much worse a crime is how you survive. survive. This is bad because that's where they cultivate, that's where they cultivate a culture or a sensationalization of far worse crimes. This means that people who could have been rehabilitated if they were out sooner stay longer in prisons and become worse when they come out in society.
Time is up. Thank you very much,
Leader
Leader 1, for that. It's time for us to get comments from our judges on our second debate. Gugs, I'm going to give this one to you. Your impressions, please.
I thought quite an interesting debate in that you guys approached very different parts of the issue. The one about, I think, Bal, you touched on the issue of state neglect, which is quite important. The issue of strengthening community forums, addressing the lack of trust, which we know is one of the challenges. I'm glad that you both mentioned the prison system, the correctional services system, because of course we know that our system, to use the words that Vusi used earlier, is punitive. Very little of it is actually geared around reform or rehabilitation. I thought that was quite a nuanced debate. I thought very good. I thought you brought out quite a lot of issues in a very short space of time. So I was quite impressed with this debate.
Ndumiso, I'll come to you for the verdict, please.
Lindoguhl.
All right, congratulations to you, Leader 1. All right, our next debate is going to be between Leader 2 and Leader 4. I'll start with the furthest from me, Leader 4. Your time starts now.
The reason why community members distance themselves from participating in dealing with the issue of crime is because the systematic issues that cause these crimes in the first place, such as unemployment and inequality, are unbearable to these communities, to the point that where if they need to make the way up between do I continue stealing or do I just stop it, they decide to continue because this is their way and means of life. What do I present to you then as a solution, seeing that we have apathetic communities who have number of churches, who have a number of community services, but these are not working to prevent the issue of crime? We do a justice system reform. The South African Correctional Service Act tells us that all the work of the Department of Correctional Services centers around the rehabilitation of offenders. But we see that under status quo, this is not even true. In 2013 alone, the rate of recidivism were about 55% for some crimes and up to 95% for some crimes, which means that people go to prison, come back, do the same crime because it is their means of life. It means then that we must design a justice system which is inherently accountable for the way that it treats the prisoners and for the way that it
90
allows
seconds
itself...
are up. Thank you very much, Leader 4. You can engage.
Yes, can I just finish the sentence? We need to be aware that in as much as we want to burden the communities with the responsibility of dealing with crime, the justice system itself is inherently flawed. And until we deal with that, issues such as inequality and unemployment will keep fueling the issue of crime. We need to deal with reforming the justice system and making it deal with deterrence instead of valuing rehabilitation. Yes.
Understanding that there's countries like Zimbabwe which have far more worse inequality and unemployment rates as compared to South Africa, but they still have the best forms of systems in society.
Exactly.
So don't you think that it's not just necessarily inequality and unemployment that are a problem in society, but it's also the structure of the community and families that do bring about an effect?
Countries such as Zimbabwe, which do not have inequality, have a justice system which prioritizes the issue of deterrence. The prisons in Zimbabwe, the police officers are not friendly with the criminals. The thing that we saw in the insert, can I just
understand that in Zimbabwe people do not have rights? They are limited to their own rights and they have a militarized state. So are you telling us that we should have a militarized state which does not consider people's basic human rights?
I am saying that people's basic human rights need to be considered until the point where they should be considered, but at the same time we should be having a justice system that encourages deterrence. We can't keep taking people to prison and allowing them to come back when they've committed other previous crimes and have killed and have murdered. We create harsher prison conditions. We make sure that when people get to prison, they must not be able to get degrees, first of all. They must not be able to have circumstances that are...
Thank you very much, Leader 4. You've got 30 seconds to wrap it up.
Panel, we know that there's countries where people do not experience the issue of yes, we know that there's countries which do not experience issues of crime because they have a justice system which is centered around deterrence. People in those countries respect the police officials. The police officials are not corrupt. The police officials are accountable and respect their job. They are well trained. They are vigilant. This is not what we have in South Africa. The justice system needs to be accountable for itself because the issue of inequality and unemployment will not be dealt with immediately. It means that the justice system needs to carry out its own task.
Leader 2, it is your turn to give us your opening statement. Go ahead.
In the fight against crime, it is urgent that we make sure it is difficult to carry out crime, lessen the ability for criminals to be able to detect police detection on them, and also to make sure that it is less profitable to engage and to do in society using community engagement platforms. Now, these are the four proposals that I bring to you. Create a police community rapport whereby the community trusts the police and the police trust the community so that they are able to engage. Second, you need to bring about structured family units that are able to support child families that are having problems that end up leading them to be able to be forced into crime. Redesign and reform the judicial system and the judicial crime approach in South Africa. And finally, last but not least, to have a society that endorses our community police forums the same way they endorse the neighborhood watch in the white communities. Now, what do I mean when I say that we need a police judiciary system? If you know that in societies like a case, whenever the police come, people run away, even if they didn't do anything. It's because of the nature that we have a report and our confidence and trust in the police.
Thumbs up, thank you very much. Your leaders can engage.
Tobani, the issue of community engagement platforms does not help because those already exist. I'm saying, in addition to those already existing community engagement platforms, the justice system needs to be reformed such that it has harsher prison conditions, harsher sentences, and it allows people to not be able to repeat the same crimes that they did. Because what you're trying to do is to just maintain status quo and say, hey, let's have community engagement activities and churches. Yeah.
If you would allow me to engage on that, this is what happens. With the current status quo, there's a failure because there's already an engagement with people. As I was outlining, that people, they run away when they see police. So now you need to re-look at what makes these people to be afraid of these police, to interact with them, so that they do not have confidence and they do not trust. Can you allow me to please respond to the question that you just posed? Now, this is what happens. With people having lost the confidence in the police because of how they've been brought about in engaging police, you need to then ask have engagement platforms.
In addition to allowing people to engage with the police officers, you need to be aware of the fact that the police officers themselves are corrupt and community members are apathetic. If they have to choose, do I keep stealing so that I can feed my family? That's what they will choose. They are apathetic to crime because it is their means of life. How do you address that? Through community engagement platforms.
Okay, now this is what happens. She's telling us that the police are corrupt in our society. Yes, we do acknowledge the fact that the police are corrupt in society. But with the fact that...
And that is why people don't trust the police because they are corrupt.
Can you just wait? Can you please just wait?
Continue.
If we were to be able to re-engage and reintegrate into the police how they engage with society...
Thank you very much, leaders. Leader 2 now. Leader, please listen to the rules. You now have 30 seconds to conclude.
Now, this is what happens. In society, the most basic thing that we need to engage on as society is to ensure that there's proper family structures that are able to endorse the current existing families, because most of these families that commit crimes are family structures which do not have proper family structures into place. And secondly, onto that, we need to have a government endorsing how they bring about the community police forums in our societies, because in community police forums in our societies, like the one in Northern Cape or Operation Wanyatsotsi, it is not treated the same way as the community police forum, which is called Neighborhood Watch.
Thank you very much, leaders. Leader 2, thank you very much. We're going to come to Ndumiso.
Quite a number of interesting points. You know, in certain instances, I tend to wish that this platform was some kind of lehota, because some of the issues that are raised here, I wish that we could dwell more and really unpack in terms of what they are. Zanele, you quite rightly identified the question of unemployment being the key issue to the crime situation that we face in South Africa, because we see that where there is a least amount of crime or where crime rates are low in South Africa, it's directly correlated to that country's economic fortunes. Your analysis in that respect was quite correct. Tobani, you focus quite a lot on the family structure that exists in South Africa and how that permeates into the rest of society, and how even some of us in our families were harboring criminals, people who hijack cars and so on and so forth, which is a very correct assessment. And of course, the antagonistic relationship that communities do have with the police or the policing in South Africa.
All right, thank you, Ndumiso. I'm going to give our guest judge an opportunity to give us the verdict.
So the verdict is leader number 4 wins this debate.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Done.
And congratulations to you, leader 4. Ngakho-ke now lapha ekhaya ukuthi usenalo ithuba lokuvota until Monday. Ngakho-ke votela umholo omthanda kakhulu. Ngoku-SMS igama labo negama elithi leader qala kunenamba yabo ku-SMS line yethu ethi 34708 at a cost of R150. Remember, you SMS the word leader nenamba yomholo omthanda kakhulu to our SMS line. We're going to take a quick break. Just stay with us. Welcome back. We are now in the final stanza of our show for tonight. Thank you so much for participating and engaging with us on our social media platforms. Now I'm going to ask our judges to please give us their final impressions of tonight's debates and perhaps advice as we go into our elimination rounds. Ndumiso, I'll start with you.
Look, we've seen a number of improvements from all of you guys, and like we've mentioned before, the competition is quite tough. We're glad that you guys are integrating some of the feedback that you get from each and every debate, and it shows from each and every debate. At this point of the show, and I guess I'll just move more from a contestant's perspective. At this point of the show, it's a question of having integrated the feedback that you've received and being consistent. That's what it's all about at this point. You've received all of the feedback that you can get. You know yourself certain instances where you've been weak or certain instances where you need to improve.
The biggest thing is, I think it's great to see many of you, asking for feedback and then applying it. We're seeing a great improvement kind of week on week based on you taking the feedback we give and you applying it. Some of you are guessing, and I think you'll know where you are guessing. Don't do that. Don't rely on rhetoric, but really engage, because now the stakes are very high. You need every single point, but I think this is the best this collective has been in the game so far.
All right, thank you very much, Gugs, and to our guest judge, Bongani. Ngiza ukuthi umpetha-ke when it comes to indaba debating, continental champion and all of that. What advice do you have for our leaders going into the rounds of elimination?
Firstly, I'd like to congratulate all of the debaters. I felt like all of them are keen researchers and they clearly read up on a lot of issues, because it felt like I was watching 3 different debates, and that's always awesome, because it means that when this one was finished, these guys were tweaking theirs to make sure that it's unique and that it stood out from the last one. I mean, this debate was as much a social, economic, political, ethics, governance issue as anything else. And it shows that all the debaters on stage today researched every one of those issues as well as they could. I think what I also liked about the debates today is that, I mean, in South Africa and in many countries around the world, debating is, we speak over each other but don't really engage. So on this stage, there seems to be a group of people who are very keen on listening to the other side. This is a great debate to watch, and I wish all of you the best of luck going forward.
Bongani, we're so glad to have had you tonight, and we hope you'll come back. We're inspired by you and the work that you do. Unfortunately, due to the spread of the coronavirus, we do not have a studio audience vote on this episode, but that should not stop you from casting your vote for your favorite. Before we wrap up tonight's show, let's quickly take a look at who is leading the pack so far.
At the end of this episode, Bal and Vusi are neck and neck with 10 points each. The race is on.
Remember, at home, we'll be showing your voting results at the top of next week's episode. Voting lines will close on Monday afternoon. Ngithanda ukubonga our candidates, njengenjayelo our judges. Kanti-ke nalapho enisibukele khona whether kusemakhaya emisebenzini. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of One Day Leader. Ngeviki elandelayo, we'll be discussing yet another thought-provoking topic. I leave you tonight with the words of Greek philosopher Aristotle, who said, "Poverty is the parent of revolution and crime." Take a moment, South Africa, and think about that. It's a wrap for tonight. My name is Shongwe. Asiphinde sihlangane futhi ngeviki elandelayo.